35 iron workers die at work each year. 2,200 workdays are lost every year due to injuries. Steel erection can be a dangerous business. Today we'll help you recognize hazards and work safely. The topics covered in this video will help protect you and your family from the tragic effects of a serious injury. Please, listen carefully. This video will help you work safely. But up on the structure, only you can make the right decisions. Welcome to our multiple lift rigging training video. Now that multiple lift rigging or Christmas treeing is a recognized procedure, it's very important that you know how to use it safely and efficiently. There are two main benefits for multiple lift rigging. By making fewer lifts, the number of crane swings is decreased. This reduces exposure for workers on the ground to overhead loads. Fewer lifts reduce total time on the structure for iron workers and also limit the number of incoming loads. As a result, worker safety and productivity can be increased. However, it's important to remember that multiple lift rigging procedures are now specifically regulated, and the procedure has some of its own hazards. You should also check job site specific and local regulations. Sometimes local areas and some owners or contractors may have additional, more stringent multiple lift rigging requirements. This video will train you in three areas. 1, recognizing hazards associated with multiple lift rigging. 2, avoiding those hazards. And 3, we'll go over the rules and procedures for making the lift. Let's get started by pointing out the 6 main hazards you must learn to identify. As with anything in our industry, if rigging is not done properly, it can be dangerous. There is more to being safe than just paying attention. The riggers, crane operator, and iron worker connectors need to work together as a team and watch out for one another. Steel members rolling over is one of the most frequent and dangerous hazards when rigging. Most often this is due to improper cribbing, members being snagged by rigging, or being knocked over by equipment or other persons. This dangerous situation can result in crushing or amputation injuries to arms, hands, legs, and feet. Death or serious injury may be caused by members falling. This can be due to rigging failure from overload, improper rigging practices, faulty rigging, or failure to properly seat rigging and hooks. Hoisting equipment can fail for several reasons: rigging overload, improper setup, or mechanical failure. This can result in members falling, crane boom collapse, or possibly causing the crane to overturn. The third hazard comes from beams rotating or spinning excessively. These can hit unsuspecting iron workers, causing serious damage. Worse, a bump can cause iron workers to fall off the buildings. Contacting power lines is the fourth hazard you must recognize. This can result in death or serious injury. Cranes or rigging contacting power lines is the #1 killer of riggers and others who work around cranes. Remember, neither equipment nor personnel may come within 10 feet of a power line. If those lines carry over 50,000 volts, increase your separating distance. Check with your supervisor if you're unsure of line voltages in your site. The fifth hazard occurs in windy conditions. Wind can cause loads to drift and or move unexpectedly. Wind also adds weight to the load. The sixth hazard is hard to see or inaccurate crane hand signals. Radios with weak batteries or damaged connections can make communication extremely difficult for blind lifts. Misunderstood signals result in serious injury for iron workers every year. Now that you've identified some of the most common hazards, how do you take positive steps to avoid them? There are 6 musts to safely perform a multiple lift. You must wear proper personal protective equipment, or PPE. You must inspect your equipment daily. You must have an organized and clean laydown area. You must keep all equipment and personnel away from power lines. You must know the capacity of the equipment and the weight of the loads. You must use clear hand or radio signals. Riggers should have the following personal protective equipment: hard hat, safety glasses, gloves, work boots, and a proper shirt and work pants. In addition, the rigger should have a rigging card that lists the capacities of the equipment. Keep this reference in your hard hat or wallet. See your supervisor if you don't have a card or don't know the capacities of your rigging equipment. At the start of your day or shift, inspect each piece of rigging equipment that you'll be using. This includes all slings, hooks, and shackles. You should look at the following areas for wear or damage: wire rope slings or chokers. Never use a sling that shows signs of excessive kinking, crushing, broken or cut strands, core protrusion, corrosion, bird caging, or broken lines. Hooks. Always inspect the safety latches to make sure they are in good working order. Never modify the safety latches on hooks, except as allowed by OSHA and designated by your supervisor. Sorting hooks, or pelican hooks, are designed to be used without a safety latch. But remember, sorting hooks should not be used for general hoisting. They are for sorting and shaking out only. Look for wear in the saddle of the hook. Check for cracks or twisting of the hook body. Be sure to examine the throat opening. The throat will open or enlarge if a hook has been overloaded or if it's begun to weaken. Shackles. All pins must be straight and screw pins must be fully seated. Cotter pins must be used with all round pin shackles. If there is wear in the crown or pin of more than 10% of the original diameter, then the shackle must be destroyed. Note, do not use a screw pin shackle if the load has the possibility of rolling. This could cause the pin to unscrew and fail. You should immediately remove any rigging from service if you have any doubts as to its safety. Never try and get one more lift or make temporary repairs before removing a defective piece of rigging. You must take the piece out of service. Failure to do so could result in death or serious injury. If you have any doubts as to the condition of a piece of rigging, show it to your supervisor. Remember, OSHA regulations prohibit the use of defective rigging. In order to perform multiple lifts, you must have clear access to all the members in the laydown area. Organizing the pieces makes everyone's job easier and safer. That's what makes the sorting and shaking out process so important. Make sure there's enough cribbing or dunnage, and make sure it's strong enough to support the weight you'll be landing on it. Using makeshift supports can cause beams to overturn. This can result in crushing injuries to legs, feet, and arms for you and your coworkers. When stacking layers of joist or decking, the cribbing should be placed to provide stability and access for attaching slings. Keep all upper layers of cribbing aligned with the bottom layer to provide solid support all the way up. Even with proper cribbing, accidents can occur if a load shifts from poor or unstable ground conditions. The ground you're on is like the foundation of a building. If the foundation isn't solid, neither is the building. Storage and staging areas should be as dry and level as possible. Keep stacks and the center of gravity as low as possible. Tall stacks raise the center of gravity and limit visibility and stability. Joist bundles should not be stacked more than 2 levels. Deck bundles should not exceed 4 or 5 levels, depending on the width of the decking. The final step in organizing your laydown area is to mark the center line of all beams before the start of hoisting. This helps keep the beam level during the hoist and can reduce extra work and danger for the connectors. It will speed up the entire job and make it safer. Often, one person who is paying attention and planning ahead can rig faster than 2 people who are not. If your laydown area is organized, it should be easy to know the location of the steel pieces and their order to be hoisted. Review this with your supervisor. Now, it's very important that you know the capacity of the rigging equipment you're using and never exceed it. For multiple lifting, the rigging assembly must be manufactured by a wire rope rigging supplier. It will have a 5-to-1 safety factor on all the components. Since this is a specialized type of lift, the rigging must meet the specific requirements for your multiple lift procedure. In other words, you must use an approved rigging assembly, not just hook multiple loads on the same hook. Check your card to determine the load capacity of all chokers and hooks you'll be using that day. Make sure you know the crane capacity before you begin hoisting. It's extremely important that the crane operator knows the weight of the pieces to be lifted and that the total load, including the rigging, does not exceed the crane or jib capacity. To determine the weight of a member, check the drawings for the piece weight. Start with a piece mark number on the side of the beam. Find that beam or column listed on the drawings and take note of the numbers that follow the letter W. The first number tells you the web size in inches, and the second number tells you the member's weight per foot. For example, you can see that the beam weighs 22 pounds per foot. If it's 26 feet long, multiply 22 by 26 to figure the beam's weight, 572 pounds. For multiple lift rigging, you must figure the weight of all the pieces being lifted. Basic rigging requires the knowledge of several types of hitches. The choker hitch is primarily used for multiple lift rigging because of its choking or biting characteristics that prevent slipping. Caution should be exercised when using nylon or synthetic slings on steel members. To prevent cutting the slings, use softeners if necessary. You'll usually maintain a straight vertical angle on the choker hitch, but be aware that reducing the angle will reduce that hitch's load capacity. Remember, a choker hitch's maximum strength is only 75% of a single leg hitch. Be sure to take this into consideration in addition to the angle. Typical rigging errors have the load heavy on one end. This means the load will tip down on hoisting and the load could slip out and fall. It's critical to maintain the 7-foot distance between items in a multiple lift. Therefore, the load must be rigged level. Remember to mark your center lines. If it's side rigged, the load twists over upon lifting. This can make it difficult for the connectors. They have a harder time positioning the member for connecting. Proper rigging saves time, helps your fellow workers do their jobs, and keeps everybody safe. When you're rigging joists or joist girders, check their weights in the SJI catalog. If there's question, contact the joist supplier. Riggers use hand signals every day for communication with the crane operators. It's important for everyone's safety that you know these signals and how to properly use them. Now, let's review the crane hand signals. Here are some important tips to follow. Always keep your hand and arm extended away from your body for easy viewing by the crane operator. Make clear, definite signals and only have one person signaling at a time. Remember, the operator has the right to stop the crane if poor signals threaten the safety of others. Talk with the operator before lifting and see how best to communicate. It's all about teamwork. If the distances are too great or you're working out of sight, make sure you use radios to maintain constant contact. This means talking to the operator with continuous, clearly spoken directions. If you aren't communicating with a crane operator, he should stop. The pride and care you take in your signals will make everyone's job safer and easier. Watch these signals and commit them to memory. Ask your supervisor if any are unclear or confusing.
Emergency stop. Both arms extended, palms down. Move arms back and forth horizontally. Stop. Arm extended, palm down. Move arm back and forth horizontally. Dog everything. Clasp hands in front of body. Swing. Point with a finger in direction of swing of a boom. Use main hoist. Tap fists on head, then use regular signals. Use whip line, auxiliary hoist. Tap elbow with one hand, then use regular signs. Hoist. With forearm vertical, forefinger pointing up, move the hand in a small horizontal circle. Lower. With an arm extended downward, forefinger pointing down, move the hand in small horizontal circles. Move slowly. Use one hand to give any motion signal and place the other hand motionless in front of the hand, giving the motion signal. Raise boom. Arm extended, fingers closed, thumb pointing upward. Lower boom. Arm extended, fingers closed, thumb pointing downward. Raise the boom and lower the load. Arm extended, fingers closed, thumb pointing upward, move fingers back and forth horizontally. Lower the boom and raise the load. Arm extended, fingers closed, thumb pointing downward, move fingers back and forth horizontally. Retract boom. Telescoping booms. Both fists in front of body with thumbs pointing toward each other. Extend boom. Telescoping booms. Both fists in front of body with thumbs pointing outward. Extend boom, one hand. Signal with one hand. One fist in front of the chest with the thumb hitting the chest. Retract boom. Telescoping plumes. Signal with one hand. One fist in front of the chest, the thumb pointing outward, and with the back part of the fist hitting the chest. Bridge travel. Arm extended forward, hand open and slightly raised, making a pushing motion. Travel, both tracks. Use both fists in front of body, making a circular motion about each other, indicating direction of travel, forward or backward. Travel, one track. Lock the track on side indicated by raised fist. Travel opposite track in direction indicated by circular motion of other fist, rotated vertically in front of body.
Now let's take a look at the steps you must take to safely rig a multiple lift. There are several safety rules for multiple lift rigging that must be followed. First, you may not rig more than 5 members in a single lift. Second, there must be at least 7 feet between each rigged member. Third, do not make lifts in excessively windy conditions. You should check with your supervisor and the crane operator. Note that various localities and cranes can have different wind speed limits. Fourth, a safe route to swing loads should be available. Avoid swinging loads over other workers and occupied buildings. At times, both riggers and connectors will have to work under suspended loads. You must always remain alert when working under any load. Fifth, only beams and some open web joists can be rigged for multiple lifts. Other materials, such as columns or decking, cannot be handled safely using a multiple lift. Sixth, controlled load lowering or power down must be used by the crane operator whenever the load is over the connectors. Be aware that OSHA prohibits use of cranes for multiple lift rigging where it is contrary to the crane manufacturer's recommendations and specifications. Of course, the total load, including the rigging assembly, cannot exceed the rated capacity of the crane or jib. Remember, the jib capacity reduces greatly as the radius or the load's distance from the crane increases. With all these points firmly in mind, let's rig a multiple lift. Remember, you've already marked the center line of each beam or joist. This keeps the members level during the lift and the connectors safe during their operations. Make sure you have the correct order of members before you let the steel leave the ground. Delays and increased hazards are created if members reach the connectors in the wrong order. Remember to consult the erection drawings for the proper sequencing. The order in the lift is the reverse order of connecting. In other words, the last or bottom piece will be the first piece set. Use a tag line whenever possible. Tie a knot that will remain secure, such as a half hitch or bowline. The workers up top may have to use the tag line too, so you don't want it to come loose. And keep the line short, about 3 to 6 feet, so it doesn't whip around or get tangled on something during a lift. Once all these conditions have been met, you may safely proceed with a multiple lift. Let's review the key points we've covered today. First, we started by pointing out 6 main hazards. 1. Members rolling over on the ground is one of the most commonly occurring hazards. 2. Members falling during a lift can have tragic consequences. 3. Spinning beams can bump into unsuspecting workers. 4. Contacting power lines has been the #1 killer of riggers and crane operators. 5. Heavy winds can cause the load to drift or move unexpectedly. 6. Inaccurate or otherwise poor hand signals can result in serious injuries to iron workers. To help protect riggers and all iron workers from the dangers of these hazards, we went over 6 musts that riggers should follow. First, riggers must wear proper PPE. This includes hard hat, gloves, work shirt and pants, and a rigging card. Second, at the beginning of each shift, riggers must inspect every piece of equipment they will be using that day. Never try to get one more lift out of a rigging assembly. Properly dispose of faulty rigging. Third, make sure you have an organized and clean laydown area. The laydown area should be as level and as dry as possible. Make sure the cribbing is strong and secure. Also, mark the center line of all the members before you begin hoisting. Fourth, riggers must watch out for nearby power lines. Keep all equipment and personnel at least 10 feet away. Fifth, make sure you know the rigging assembly's capacity and the weight of the load before you begin hoisting. Your rigging card will help you figure out the rigging assembly's capacity. To figure out the load's weight, check the piece mark number and reference it on the drawings. Sixth, use clear hand signals. Make sure you hold your hand away from your body and that only one iron worker is signaling the crane at a time. Commit the signals to memory before you signal a crane operator. Following these musts will help you avoid the dangers of multiple lift rigging. Let's review the safety rules you should know to perform a safe multiple lift. 1. You may not rig more than 5 members in a single lift. 2. There must be at least 7 feet between each member. 3. You should avoid making lifts in excessively windy conditions. Discuss this with your crane operator and supervisor. 4. Find a safe swing route that avoids swinging over workers and occupied buildings. 5. You may only make a multiple lift on beams and some open web joist products. 6. The crane must have power load lowering capabilities. 7. The total load, including the rigging assembly, cannot exceed the capacity of the crane or the jib. When these conditions have been met, you are ready to make a multiple lift. Rig the members in the opposite order that they will be connected. For example, the last one you rig will be the first one to be connected. Use a tag line whenever possible. Tie a half hitch or a bowline knot to make sure that it remains secure. We hope that you learned a few things today that will help you create a safer work environment. I thank you for watching this video. Your family will thank you for coming home safely day after day.